that one.
Oh, yeah. That would have been a good one to start the show off.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, everybody.
Good to see
Too
you.
much fun already.
Yeah, that would have been dangerous there, I think.
Yeah, you should have about 2 minutes ago.
Well, we're laughing because they were talking about Dukes of Hazzard and the car stunts, and I told Dennis I didn't realize there was a car in Dukes of Hazzard. All I remembered was cut off blue jeans.
Oh yeah,
Daisy Dukes.
Yep.
No, we were.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Steve, take over.
We were speaking movies, and we were talking about Unstoppable, and Claude hasn't seen it.
No.
You got to go see it, Claude, and go with the idea that you're just going to have a good laugh. Don't take it seriously.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch it if I'm really bored one day.
Oh no,
Yeah,
have a couple of years and you're going to love it.
Okay.
Just giggle. Good morning, everybody. Oh man, so we got Steve Anderson. Good morning, John Benicecki, John Grandpa Rails. We got Rick's O Scale Gauge Railroad. Good, welcome. You're new, I think. Al. We got Al Mar. We got my buddy Bernard, Rob T-Man. We got Steven at Wigwag and oh goodness, and we got Mark Pruitt. Allison's here, and let's see. I know we got Joe Rader, and let's see. There was another couple here.
There's a lot of people here that are new.
Yeah, it looks like.
I'm losing track of everybody. Anyway, good morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
Yeah, Steve, that's kind of what we were talking about. Steve Anderson said, what are you saying? Movies aren't real life.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. Anyway, before we get started, I want to tell, is Mark Pruitt in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark was
Well,
here?
yeah.
Hey, Mark, I got your email, and I didn't get in until really late last night, or actually early this morning. So I haven't contacted him yet, but I will today. So thanks for that, for sending that information to me, and we'll see about getting him on the show. So anyway, we don't have anything to talk about other than talking about stupid movies.
Do we ever?
Yeah, how movies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Roy Hardwick's here.
Unstoppable, yeah. Yeah. Don't forget Roy.
Can't forget Roy Hardwick.
Yeah.
Oh, Hi's there. He just came in.
Hi. Hey, hi.
Yeah, we got a bunch of new people. Good to see
Yeah.
everybody.
If you're new, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Hope you come back.
Yeah.
Ray Ron VR. That's one I haven't seen in here before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
New people in
I
here.
don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or not.
And if you don't
Rick's,
like friends,
Rick's O Gauge is Rick's Railroad. He's been in here before.
Oh, is it? He just changed his title.
Yeah, he just changed his name to stuff.
Hey, Chuck's here. Good to see you, Chuck. Seen you in a while.
hey Chuck.
Hey, Gail's here. Hi, Gail.
Yeah.
Talking.
She was in the room. I thought
Yeah, she was
gonna
sitting
be in
behind
here.
Dennis there a minute ago.
Yeah.
She ran out when we started talking about Daisy Dukes.
Yeah, we got the White Curly. Good morning, White.
Chased her off.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, what do you guys want to talk about today?
Maybe we should ask the chat if there's a random railroad topic that they want to discuss. That might be dangerous. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that probably is going to be.
Hey, I got one. I just thought about this a little while ago. What do you do on your layout with structures? Are you trying to do structures that are real structures and copy those and put them on your layout, or are you just doing, making structures up that you want to put on your layout? Or is it a combination of both? For me, it's a combination of both. And a lot of that is only because the kits, I'm building all mine out of kits. So that's where they come. But I do have a lot of generic buildings too that aren't a specific prototype of some sort. So I've got a mix of both on mine.
You do them like Dennis. You just cut them out of hardwood.
He's just playing with blocks.
Bill, what's your answer for that?
Yeah.
I'd say kind of a combination, similar to what Claude said. You've got areas of layouts where you're going to have specific things like industries, service facilities, whatnot. It's more looking for buildings that sort of fit the time period, I think is what I do. I want buildings that look decent. A lot of mine are kits. I'm just getting started doing some scratch building. But you want something that sort of fits the theme of what you're trying to accomplish. And there's a lot of good kits that are out there, and definitely kit bash and modify. So yeah, it's a mix. I want some specific areas that look really cool, some nice, realistic looking, engine service facility stuff. Other stuff you can take, a variety of kits and put them into a cluster in different ways to make it look bigger, but still make it look realistic. So that's just kind of my thought.
Yeah. I would say it's also a combination. To me, it depends on the area, like specifically in basalt, I am trying to recreate specific buildings that I can. In other words, I've got photographic evidence of the building because, the pictures I'm using are from the late 1880s, early 1900s, maybe as late as 1921. I'm not 100% sure. That's what I'm using to inspire me. So if I can find those buildings, those will be the buildings I use or try to recreate. And then in other areas, like I might put a building or two in there that didn't exist in the photograph. But as long as I can accurately represent the photograph, that's my ultimate goal in that town. And same thing with Silver Gulch. I tried to recreate the street look of Black Hawk, Colorado. Now, none of those buildings are built yet, but those are all going to have to be scratch built in order for me to achieve that goal. But there will be other places where, like the mine, what I'm calling the RG mine, which stands for my dad, Robert George. That mine is a kit. So I'm not trying to recreate anything prototypical there. It's a West Side Models kit, and it'll be perfect for that area.
Yeah, I think that the fitting the time period and the overall general theme, I think, is the most important for me too.
Does the building belong?
Yeah,
To the
I don't
railroad
want a brand new Texaco gas station sitting on my layout because it won't go with that.
Yeah.
And which plays in real good for mine. I'm trying to do late 40s, very early 50s. So all the wood structures I'm doing are great. And all the Campbell kits I'm doing are great because I can weather them up and make them look old. And so they fit in well with what I'm trying to do. But there are other things I bought the tank kit from Campbell's, and I'm making a scene with that. That's not anything I've got in a picture or anything else. It's just something I wanted to put on there. So,
is any part of your layout? Did you use any historical photos or anything to recreate any part of it?
The only thing I looked at photos for on mine was the Colorado Midland Roundhouse that's on my main yard. That's a Colorado Midland Roundhouse, or at least part of it. It was a lot bigger than what I've got.
The one in Leadville?
I looked those pictures up when I was getting ready to build the kit, but I had the kit already, and I knew I was going to use that and put it on there because I like the kit. But and I've got the Como Roundhouse, and I've got to try and fit it on the upper deck, which might be tough to do. But and I just finished another. Well, I'm not finished with it yet. I'm almost done with it. It's a single engine roundhouse. I think I showed you the kit, Dennis. It's a Southern Pacific wooden engine house, and I don't know if I'm going to put that on the layout or not. I haven't decided yet, but because I started building that kit, and then I remembered, oh no, I still got the Como Roundhouse that I was going to put up there, which is half built. A friend of mine did. So yeah, I'll find something to do with it, but I don't know yet. Maybe I'll give it to you. After I get it built. Anyway, yeah.
I'll have
Yeah.
one roundhouse on my layout eventually. That will be, but I will probably, if it's still available, I'll probably get the Colorado Midland roundhouse,
Yeah.
because that's actually what I'm somewhat modeling.
Yeah.
Leadville, is that the one that was in Leadville, I presume?
No, the one I've got is the one that was in, I want to say Colorado City.
Okay.
Either there or Colorado Springs. No, I think it's the one in Colorado Springs. In fact, the building is still, part of the building is still there. They've turned it into like a yuppie shop, you know, places to have restaurants and stuff like that,
Right.
which I've done with a lot of roundhouses I've seen over the years.
Yeah.
But I think that's where it was, Colorado Springs. And Steve, I know Steve's been more modern on your N scale, but you don't have anything really prototypical on yours, do you?
No, mine were just kits that I bought. I mean, just really for the engine area and a couple of small ones on. I built that little that farmhouse and, you know, speeder shit, but there's not a lot of buildings on it.
Well, you did the float. I like your car float though.
Yeah, I scratch built that. Well, I had the whole idea I was going to do a second deck with the car float, but I got sidetracked.
Hey, will any of you guys do like abandoned buildings, like buildings that were probably not in your era, but before your era?
Well, the very first thing I put on my layout, was the stamp mill. And I intended it to be derelict when I built it.
Right.
So yeah, that was the very first structure I put on there. Now I haven't shown that in a long time because that's more of a finished area of the layout, and I haven't been showing that. But I do have that one, and I may put some more.
Like I'm sure
I plan on having an abandoned mine to the far right end of Silver Gulch. If there's room, I'm going to have to kind of play with the scenery to see, because what I would like is to have evidence of tracks that have been taken up. You know, like there used to be a line going in there. They've taken it up, and a dilapidated mine. And I want it to where it's obscured by trees, and you kind of have to look for it and see off in there. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but I've had that in my mind the entire time I've been working on Silver Gulch. Yeah. And truth be known, I had bouncing back and forth between three different ideas: the abandoned mine, an abandoned logging camp, which I don't think will actually work because I would have to have a bunch of trees that would be laid down. It wouldn't really make sense. Or maybe a road instead of the tracks, and have a moonshine still, kind of like what Bill does. So I'm still kind of up in the air what it's going to be. It depends on the space available.
Yeah, you need to have a moonshine still.
It's been done now.
It's good.
Well,
I know
it's your railroad though.
Yeah.
It's probably on everybody's.
Yeah. The next section I build, I'm going to put in a abandoned factory. You know, take an Amtrak between Richmond and, you know, sometimes going to New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. There's all kinds of old factories along the lines that are, you know, abandoned, crumbling, growth trees. Yeah. You know, take a small little area and make a nice little scene, kind of like Dennis said, you know, have an abandoned spur going into something like that. It doesn't take up much space, but it adds interest.
Well, I've actually got that. I've got a couple of the lines on the end of my yard where the road goes right at the end of the yard. One of them is still being used to get through a crossover, but the other lines come over and they're abandoned. And, you know, you can see the roadbed, but the rails have been pulled up through that point. You know, they're still in the pavement, but they're not past that point. And I kind of did something very similar to that in front of the flats there behind the yard. But yeah, it's fun to do an abandoned building. I've seen some guys do some stuff take a wood kit and make them look like they've been hit by a, tornado or a tree falling on them or something like that, and do some really incredible modeling with something like that.
Yeah, and kind of the adverse of that, the Sierra West kits that I have, I've got two. They're going to make up I guess it would be the east end of Silver Gulch. I'm thinking one of those is going to be a Cartwright shop, and so I would like to model maybe some wagons being built, where you've got some brand new looking pine lumber and things like that, where new structures I think is also a really cool thing to do. I've mentioned Lex Parker a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
He's ON, I don't know if I think it's ON
30 probably.
I don't think it's 30. I think it's ON 3. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he's got a scene on his railroad where they're actually constructing a brand new. I can't remember if it's a passenger car or what it is, but the scene is just fantastic.
Yeah.
We've got all of the lumber laid out, and you can see the skeleton of the car, and it's just fantastic. That's one of my favorite scenes of his.
Yeah, there's some great modeling things you can do with stuff like that. I was going to say something, and you blew my mind. I was going to comment on something you said, and then I forget what it is now. But yeah, that's it. You can take something like that, take a model, and say, okay, now how can I change this from what is in the box? And push yourself in that kind of direction and see what you can do to make it look different. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the fun things for me to do, or add to it. Like the two mines I have on my layout that are the Sudum kits, they're all metal. I had to solder them together, but they had no wood in them at all. And I took underneath where it's elevated above the tracks and put in rafters and ore chutes and stuff like that to add to that kit to make it work for what I wanted. It would have looked fine like it was, but it didn't have that detail to it that I got to add to it. So I like doing that too, adding stuff on.
Isn't that called kit bashing?
Yeah, I always thought kit bashing was.
Bashing?
I always consider kit bashing taking one or more kits and combining and putting them together, or using pieces from two different things to put together. That's what I always thought kit bashing was. I guess you could call it kit bashing. But I took the models themselves and just added stuff to them that wasn't from a kit. It was all scratch built add-on stuff to them. But there's all kinds of possibilities like that.
That's kind of what I'm doing with my coal trestle. I've got a Campbell's. It's a mine. It's basically just a mine shaft and hoist, but it's got ore bins as part of the kit. So I'm taking just the plans for those ore bins and finding a way to scab them onto my trestle. I've got all of the framework for the ore bins are now built. I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm not using any material from the kit. I'm using all of my own material, and I guess kit bashing my own scratch build. I'm kit bashing a scratch build, if that makes sense.
Using the plans as a guide. Yeah.
Yeah.
That mine you're talking about, it's a Campbell's mine. I'm trying to remember the name of it because I've got it on mine. That was the first mine I built. And it's got a separate little.
I can't remember. Of course, it's in the river down in the van down by the river. So
it's got a separate little tipple with it. So it's just the mine head, the mine shaft head.
Yep.
And the winch. I don't even know if it had a winch house. Did it have a winch house with it?
I think it has a winch house, a little bitty winch house, not much of it.
Yeah, because I built one for it. I don't remember if it was in the kit or not, but yeah, I have that same one of mine.
Yeah.
And I changed mine because you see it on the plan, it goes straight out to the tipple, and I changed mine where mine goes over this way to the tipple. And instead of running the mine this way, I ran it this way because I didn't have the room to move it here, so I just moved it around, and then you got to kind of figure out how you're going to make it go from there. So, and doing the same kind of thing on where I'm going to have the ore buckets coming down from the top of the mountain. That bottom house was actually supposed to be a powerhouse for Leadville, and I changed it and cut some holes in the side upper part of that to bring the buckets in, and then I'll take ore cars out to the tipple on the other side of it. And all that's going to be, kit bashed in, and then the tipple is from another kit. So that one will be definitely kit bashed. I've got like
Claude,
3 different kits in that one scene.
I got a question for you. What made you build so many mines on your layout? Like, are you fascinated with mines?
Yeah, I think it hit me when a couple of years ago, my best friend and I went up to Silverton, and we didn't go to ride the trains. We went to do off-roading north of Silverton, which is a fantastic place to off-road. I mean, it's off-road because there's no paved roads. It's all gravel. Yeah. But there were people on the road, the Alpine Loop that we were on. There was guys driving their F-150s on it. I wouldn't take a regular car up there, but there was a lot of Nissans, a lot of pickup trucks that drove it. It was spooky enough with the Razor that we were in, that's made for that kind of stuff. But it blew my mind to see the mines and where they were built, where they dug these mines. Because you think about the time when they did it, they didn't have any way of getting up there but horse and donkey, mules, pulling stuff up. And there were these giant boilers and stuff sitting at 10,500 feet elevation.
Yeah.
And so that kind of piqued my interest, and I was going to do a small town where I've got my mine district, but I thought, no, I think I'll do a mine district. And it just, like I say, it just interested me, and I thought this would be fun to put on the layout. So I did that over where I'm at now, and now I'll put the small town on the other side, which I'm getting ready to start on before too long.
So,
Alan Barr had a pretty good question.
I'm not watching chat, but
go ahead, Jerry.
Are all your mines coal mines, or are there some gold mines?
I made one of them a coal mine, and I haven't decided on the others yet what they're going to be. They may be a combination of things.
Gotcha. What was the question, Dennis?
Al wanted to know if you're doing a freelance layout, how do you decide what structures you put on? Let me see if I can find it. How do you decide what structures to put on the layout if you do freelance? That's probably a good question for Bill, because isn't most of yours kind of freelance?
Yeah, everything on mine is freelance. I follow like Pennsylvania because it's just cool. I like the railroad, but nothing of mine represents anything in reality. If you're doing freelance, it depends on what you want to do. If you've got a yard and an engine service area on your layout, obviously you want to have some structures like, a tower, a shanty, crossing shanties, those kinds of buildings that support the activities. And then if you are going to have industries, what kind of industry trips your trigger, really? Do you want to have lumber? Do you want to have something associated with like mining? Or do you want heavy industries? If you've got a lot of box cars, maybe you want to have a lot of heavier industry so you can have box car traffic going into buildings. Mining, you could have, different industries where you could have little tracks going up to little, dock areas or bins to dump coal, or whatever. So you just kind of think a little bit about what you're wanting to accomplish, and then you can get the buildings that go towards that goal that makes sense for what you're putting down on your layout.
Yeah, it all comes down to what you like.
Yeah,
my answer to that, because mine, I guess you'd call my layout a proto-lance. it's it's a railroad of lies because nothing ever actually existed in the way that I'm doing it, but I'm using a real railroad to create my railroad of lies. So therefore, I've got lots of historical evidence that I'm making use of for the freelance part of it. That way, everything kind of makes sense, even though, I'm not going to put something on just to put something on necessarily. The ice house is there because that ice house did actually exist in that same spot, give or take, with the same track arrangement. But I guarantee it never saw a K27 or a K37 on it.
Well, and I think everybody's layout's that way. Even if you're going for full prototype, you're never going to be able to do full prototype.
No.
Unless you're doing a diorama of one scene, then you might can get by with it. But there's no way we can have enough space to do full prototype. So at some point you have to make a compromise.
Well, but there are some guys out there that if, like for instance, I'm not sure what era my BoxCars are in, because they're over, some were built in the early, 1870s, 1880s, and they started disappearing, yada, yada, yada. If you're modeling a specific time period, there's going to be some rolling stock and locomotives that could not have existed at that particular point in time. And there are people that are like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, but so there are prototype aspects of a railroad that you can be really particular about. Maybe not necessarily the track arrangements or the buildings, but there are a lot of people that pay really close attention to the trains and the cars behind them as associated with the time period. You can be really accurate with that.
Well, isn't there, what is it, the Proto 48? Those guys are that way because the rail is actual scale size. And if you look at somebody, I think in this last model railroader, they had somebody that had that. And you look at the rail and you think, man, that looks like code 40 or something like that. I mean, it's tiny.
Yeah, there's also Proto 87. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I never heard of
how
these.
small it is.
I never heard of these.
Yeah, it's a Proto 48. I guess it's a O scale. Not O scale. It had to be, what is it? S scale?
I would think it would be O scale if it's
Proto
48.
48.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so O scale, yeah, and it's the nice thing about the Proto 48 is it's big enough you can see that small detail, and yet it's actual scale size.
Yeah.
So they spike every tie, everything like that, just like the real railroad would be. And that's great if that's what you like. There's nothing wrong with doing it like that if that's what you want to do. But most people aren't going to take that kind of time to get that accurate.
What Proto 48 or Proto 87 would be, Jerry, is basically that your wheels and your rail are very accurate in the sizes. Where, like say in scale, your wheel sets on your cars are maybe not twice as wide as they would be in the real world, but they're considerably wider than what they would be in the real world.
And the flanges are huge.
And the flanges are, your flanges are like, 12 inches. The Proto 87 would make sure that your flanges are the right size, the wheel width is the right size, and the rail head and the rail height is all the right size.
Yeah. I don't know if I can find
That's
it here.
too much work, man. That's too much work.
Right, and you have to. There's a lot of things you have to convert because you can buy the wheel sets, but then you also are probably also making your own turnouts and stuff. So, which I guess I don't know whether Fast Tracks, if you use code 87, if that actually translates to a specific rail weight in the real world. I don't know.
Okay, this is in this month's Model Railroader. I guess some of you have probably seen this. This is a neat scene right here where the bridges have been taken out by
That's awesome.
earthquake or something. But
That's pretty cool.
This is Proto 48.
Yeah,
So it's kind
that's
of hard to see on this in this video here or picture, but yeah, everything there is much more accurate than most people would model.
yeah, that modeler is a member of the NMRA and part of the district that I belong to. So
Oh, is he?
he gets on some of the Zoom chats and has shared some photos of that. You know, so yeah, it takes a lot of work to get it to look like that. And again, it's a subsect of the hobby that we do. Everybody's got their own interests. You know, in the Proto 48.
The more you
really get off on that. It's
the more you get involved in the hobby, the more you see all these little subsets that you just never knew that were there before. So
Yeah. Oh, that's what makes it such a great hobby. I think the biggest thing that makes it such a great hobby is you can get in it with not very much, and then you can go full bore with it. And then there's all kinds of things in there: electrical, modeling, structure building, or bench work kind of stuff, carpentry and stuff. So there's stuff for everybody. Something's going to hit your fancy on it, and
You can even go live steam.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's still model railroading. It's just
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Just on a bigger scale.
Yeah, and I think there's even some much smaller scale that is also live steam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gets to the point where you can't ride on it.
Yeah.
There's G scale that's live steam.
Mhm.
I've seen videos of guys that have like HO scale live steam. They can't go very far, very fast, but they can fire it up and they can go.
I've never seen Joe. I've seen G scale.
Wow.
Yeah, look on YouTube because I've seen it. I think it was like a Europe, like a Hornby HO scale model that was actually a live steamer.
That wouldn't surprise me. English love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, 1-inch scale is about as small as you want to get to actually sit on the ground. Because they're considerably smaller than these, but they do have 3/4-inch scale, and they run them on an elevated track. It almost looks like a monorail. So you've got big riding cars that straddle the high rail
track, yeah.
and then
Gives your legs someplace to be.
yeah. And some of them I've seen guys that'll sit side saddle on them, but it doesn't look very comfortable. But I've ridden on 1-inch scale, and that's pretty small. That's pretty tiny. It's almost like riding this thing.
Well, yeah, I was going to say yours, compared to all the other locomotives up there at Train Mountain that ride on the same gauge, yours is probably one of the smallest I've seen up there.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And honestly, I've never seen an American up there. So that'll be interesting to see if this thing even works up there. Because it is pretty tiny. And,
So you haven't had it up to Train Mountain yet?
no, not yet.
Oh, yes, he has. I got video.
I haven't run it other than about 30 yards backwards before I fried my mouth.
Well,
before he fried it.
Counts. At least it was there and it moved.
Yeah,
Well, it was before he fried the throttle on it for like the third or fourth time.
more than that.
Yeah, and it had oil on the track, so he fired it up, put it in reverse, and went to move back, and it just spun out right there on the.
Well,
on
I
the rack.
didn't know how greasy the wheels were on this thing. I mean, this thing was just covered in oil, and same problem over at Medford when I was running it. It was slipping a lot over there, and I figured it out, and I just cleaned all the wheels. I got and it pulled pretty good once I got all the oil off of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're maybe not going up to the top of the mountain. Well, you could probably by yourself.
Yeah, I think by myself, but I don't know if I'd be able to pull anybody up it.
You're probably not uphill, yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to be a test on whether it can make it between water stops up there too, because Like I said, this thing doesn't have a lot of water in it.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to carry water?
I think in the beginning I'll probably go up with Tim and have him follow me, just in case I either stall out, run. I'll probably carry a little bit of water, but I would much prefer to go up there with Tim behind me in case I get stuck and can't get back up the hill with this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Steven says he went down the woodworking rabbit hole because of model railroading. He was looking at building building bench work. Next thing he knows, he's got an entire woodworking workshop. Yeah. That's what can happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny how a hobby will get you started on something else that you had no intention of doing. And
That's one of the things that I wanted to be at least partially completed with before I started my bench work. I wanted to have that radial arm saw and a dedicated space to do certain things before I ever started my bench work, because it just makes it so much easier. If you can just walk into the room and push a button and cut something in half right where you want it, and then also produce the same thing over and over and over again if you need it. It just makes things really nice.
Yeah, I went the opposite. I actually had like a really nice woodworking shop.
I've seen your shopsmith in there.
Oh,
Noticed
this is nothing. When I lived in Iowa, I grew up there, and I had a house, and it was near a state park on a lake, and I had a nice 2.5 stall garage, separate from the 1930-ish cabin that I was living in. And I doubled the size, and I had, like a really large woodworking shop. I was trying to keep up with Norm Abrams, back in the day.
Yeah.
So in order to accommodate the model railroad, over time, I've had to relinquish a lot, because I used to have like a Delta, cabinet maker's table saw. I had all the stuff, and I've gotten rid of most of it. Like the Delta cabinet maker's table saw has long gone, but now I've got a Mighty Mite table saw for benchtop.
I have been thinking about getting one of those.
Does that work good, Bill?
I just got it a couple of days ago, because I'm just starting to scratch build. So I was starting to cut, some of these, and the chopper that I've got just doesn't cut big stuff square. So I thought, what the heck? I went to Harbor Freight, and I got the Mighty Mite. I've run a couple of things across it. I've got to tweak it a little bit just to make sure everything is true and square. And also at the same time, bought one of their little mini chop saws. Their 2-inch blade chop saw.
Yeah.
Again, same thing. I'll adjust with that, and then you can see here's the.
You're going to have to do some reviews, Bill, and let us know.
Yeah.
I wish you'd have told me you wanted that little chop saw. I've got one I would have given you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Doesn't work?
As far as I know, it does. It was in that stuff that we auctioned off from that friend of mine that passed away.
Oh,
yeah.
And I don't know if I even put it up for auction. I think I found it after the fact, and I thought, but I'm not using it. I don't use it for anything.
You might, yeah. I don't think you did. Otherwise, I probably would have put a bid in on it.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
That would have build my cab a whole hell of a lot easier.
So this stuff, and I've run a couple of pieces of wood on this stuff. I like yesterday, I was playing with it a little bit, and again, it's Harbor Freight. I spent like $100 for all of this, plus a few other things to go with it, some extra blades. But, for cutting for like buildings and what we do, this should be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What size blades are both of them? Are they both the same size?
No, the chop saw is a little 2-inch diameter blade. And then the table saw is a 4-inch blade. And then I got like a carbide tip spare blade for the table saw for like, I think it was like $5,
So like, do they have different teeth amounts?
They do have different teeth. You can get different counts. So 4-inch blade can be used in
stuff or plastic.
I haven't even thought about styrene yet. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to give it a try. It's just something that it's not a costly addition to my shop. Plus, it's easy to store. I can put it most any place when I'm not using them.
Right. Yeah.
My only problem with cutting styrene would be heat that would melt,
Yeah,
melt plastic.
tends to melt a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if you're, and again, be using the right blade. If you're using the right blade combo,
Yeah, I think if you're using the right blade, that's going to be okay.
but I'll find out. It's something I had wanted. So
They're
and I've
hard
got
to freight.
compound miter saw. That radial. I used to have radial arm saw. I used to have all kinds of stuff. But now, since this has taken over the garage, the woodworking has gone away. Even though I still enjoy woodworking, if we ever move and I get like a garage the size of the house, then I can have both model trains, woodworking, and then I'll buy
Garage the size of the
the boat,
house.
buy the
I like
boat
the way
that
you
I've been
think, Bill.
wanting to. But
Yeah, I've
got to
got
compromise somewhere. And right now, the trains take over for the woodworking piece.
when I started building the model airplanes, RC stuff, I bought a small bandsaw, and I use an 1/8" blade on it, and then I've got a scroll saw too. I don't use it very much, but the belt sander, desktop belt sander with a disc sander on the side of it, I use those two items all the time. And usually rough cut with the bandsaw, and then I'll take it to the sander to get it to where I want it. I don't use it as much like that now because the wood is not as big as it was with the airplanes, but it still comes in very handy. I've got a table saw and all that kind of stuff too, but I don't have any use for it in the hobby part except for the cutting fascia board and that kind of thing.
Hey, Bill, does that little table saw, does it have any hookup for dust collection at all?
No.
No?
I figure when I'm using it and if I've got a lot of offcuts, I've got a little mini shop vac. I'm just going to duct tape the wand to one side of it so that I can
Shop vac and suck that thing inside.
Yeah.
It disappeared.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't create that much sawdust.
No, it's not. It's not like you're ripping a board, especially when you're cutting something like this, repetition cuts to get to the right size, and you can gang these up, and it's not going to generate too much dust.
I was just looking at the chat here. Hey, Brian, good to see you. Brian's here with Iron Horse.
Yeah, he's been
He
around.
says the Easter Bunny comes to his house tomorrow, so he has some work to do. Yeah, I bet you do. I don't have to do that anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah, we also had Joel pop in. Somebody else.
My sore bicep is here. There's
Yeah.
one I haven't seen before.
Byron, good morning.
Yeah, welcome. Oh, excuse me. And Bernard sent me an email. I don't know if he sent somebody else too, I think, but with his picture on there. So yeah, he said something earlier in chat. I missed it. I was going to put it up, but he was talking about as a kid playing with at the old mines with the dynamite caps and dynamite. Explains a lot, Bernard. Anyway, yeah, but I do have that same chop saw. I didn't, like I say, I didn't find it till after we'd done all that. I stuck it somewhere else, and I was cleaning up the shop the other day and pulled something. Where'd this come from? And then I remembered it was in that batch of stuff.
Yeah.
Send it to Dennis so he doesn't have to keep going into the other room to cut stuff.
It's just a little bitty thing. I bet it would work
Yeah,
good for doing kits and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's small, and the nice thing is the price is good. I was actually looking on eBay to start, and I was looking at the prices, and it's like, they're getting, all the people that are selling these are like, they're getting them at Harbor Freight. So I went to the Harbor Freight website, and it's like, $20 cheaper at Harbor Freight than what you'd get off eBay, and the Harbor Freight's like 7 miles from me. So, that's a nice little quick jaunt down there. It's like, bought everything that I wanted to get, saved the bottom on the top of it.
I now have a Harbor Freight 30 miles from me, so.
Micromark makes, has some too, but theirs are really good, really well-made stuff, and they'd be a lot more expensive, but
yeah, theirs would probably have the ability to tilt like the table saw here. It's just straight, a 90-degree cut. It's really, only got a one knob adjustment, so I'm going to have to true it up and do a little bit of shimming so I get true 90-degree cuts. And once I get it, that's all I'm going to use it for. But that's all I want to use it for. The chop saw, I can do any angle cuts that I need.
Now, Bill, does it have a fence and a 90-degree?
Yeah, look there.
Yeah,
Here, hang on, Bill.
it's got the
Okay.
fence. Yeah, it's got the little slider on there. This is the adjuster, though. This is the only adjuster for like up and down, so it can't do any sort of tilt. And then this has got ever so much or ever so little play.
Okay.
So again, I'll come up with a little bit of shim once I get it where I want it. I know that it's a true 90-degree to the table. But again, for like, I think it's like $40, I'm not going to complain.
No, I might have to get one of those. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can take that blade guard off so you can work better.
Yeah, so you can actually see what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I put it on just because it was there to show, safety for the
Yeah,
kids. and all
safety.
that. But
Yeah, you
usually
gotta
I
be
don't
safe.
blade guard.
Yeah.
Don't do what I do, kids.
Yeah. Safety first. Always read and follow manufacturer's safety instruction, and always wear these eye protection.
I always thought blade guards on a table saw were more of a safety issue than they were protecting you. It was
That's
for
what
me. It always caused more problems.
Yeah, they're dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
You
better
got to be really careful with those things. I could see them on a big commercial saw, but if you're paying attention, I still have all my fingers, and I've been using table saw and stuff for years.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, you're not supposed to take them off. So don't take them off.
Yeah.
That's our official stance on that. Don't take them off.
But Bill, you've been scratch building. Like all the bridges you built were scratch built. You could have used that doing that, right?
I could have, yeah. And the bridges again were sort of kit bash. Some of pieces were readily available, like the bents, but then everything to connect them, and the decking. So it's a combination of stuff. But yeah, the saw would have come in very handy. I've got like the Northwest Short Lines chopper,
Right.
really the thin stuff, but
Yeah.
you get a little bit up, and then that blade on the chopper will deflect.
Flex.
So you get a true-
Yeah, you
Bill,
get
You're
into
gonna be
master where
moving
it starts to
butt
bend a
joints,
little
that
bit on
becomes
you.
important.
hey, Bill, Steve Anderson says safety first. You know what's going to happen when that balsa wood kicks back.
You get a big old splinter.
Yeah.
That's
That's right, Bernard.
common sense.
Safety, a little common sense goes a long way.
So, hey, Bill, have
I
you
says, mind your fingers.
any updates on your layout, Bill?
Yeah, I got. I can show you real quick. I got the water tank built and put on. I don't have it permanently put on, but I can show you.
Cool.
So, Dennis, close your eyes.
And which is this a kit or is it a scratch build?
Oh, that was a kit.
Which one?
That was that square one for the O scale.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I voted for that one.
Hey, Claude, come on.
I'll get it there. Well, I'm trying to save Dennis.
That's all right. I can
Okay.
close my eyes.
We're in the area now, so I've got
I
it.
like that.
Yeah, I've got it pretty well set where it's going to go. I've got to finish the groundwork around it, but let me kind of inch my way over this way. So this was a fun kit. I think it was about 12, maybe 14 hours to get it from start to finish.
Is it all wood?
It's all wood, except for the the spout and
Yeah,
a couple of other detail parts.
Who's
And who was the manufacturer again?
I don't remember. I'd actually have to go back and look at my videos to see, because I threw the box away already.
I've seen one, a square tank like that on eBay, and I can't remember the name of the company, but it is a kit. And I don't know if it's the same one you've got.
Yeah,
But I've seen them for the square wooden tanks.
It probably is. I would have to, like I said, really, I'd have to look at the video. But it's nice because it's got all of the truss rods in it.
That's pretty cool.
Move the little ladder here.
Has a lot of character.
Yeah.
And it's, it turned out nice. So I was
big.
happy with this. you know, it was a fun. It's like the most complicated wood kit that I've built, but it's turned out, and it looks nice here. I've stained everything a rustic oak that I got, and I will come back in at some point and weather it a little bit and kind of grime it up.
You have to put some kids up there swimming.
That yeah, I might do something up there yet, or
Little
even have
petticoat
some
junction
guy,
action.
having a guy sitting up on top there or something. But so that's the big thing that I did. Other than running trains, I've got a couple of videos coming out later in the month where I've just been running all of the different layouts. I had cleaned up my HO scale and my N scale and was running them. The only other thing that I've done is I have taken the shelves out that I had up on that wall.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
So that is where one of these will go into storage when I build the next section. So I figured out what I'm going to do. So I'm going to build when I get more done with this, I'm going to build the third section to the HO scale layout. But to do that, the engine and yard service area, that's going to go into temporary storage, and that's going to go up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy myself a sheetrock lift, because they can handle about 150 pounds. And each of the tops of these, when I take the engine and cars off, it's mostly pink foam board and then just a wood frame around it. It's light. I can put it on a sheetrock lift and actually lift it up, move it over, and I'm going to have 3-foot sort of shelf supports coming out up here. And I can put the layout in storage up in this area here. And I've got room to clear this beam. So I'm crazy because I'm going to build another 4x8 layout in here.
What? Question,
Where?
Bill.
Yeah.
Is it going to clear that support for the garage door?
Yes. Yeah. The garage door, I've got actually 10 feet between there and there. So plenty of room where I can at least get one, if not two, supports in here to mount my 4x8 layout, just to kind of keep it up and out of the way.
Where are you going to put?
If I can only do one, then what I'll do.
So many questions.
Is I can build some additional just brackets up there for shelves for stuff that very rarely ever see the light of day. But I've been thinking, and that's what I'm going to do, so I don't have to get rid of any layouts. I can still have the third section for this, which is something that I originally was wanting to do, because I was originally thinking of adding on here and making more industries going into a transition to a city scene kind of on the end of this. And I've got totes of HO scale equipment up there, so it made sense that the next build that I do is going to be HO.
Your wife knows you're going to do this.
Not really, but I'm not taking over any more of the garage, so it doesn't make any difference.
It's true. It's still your domain out there. Where are you going to store the drywall lift when you're not using it?
The drywall lift folds up, so the drywall lift can go out into the garden shed that's sitting out in the backyard. So I've got plenty of stuff and plenty of room out there, so it'll be out of the way.
Cool.
But that's the insanity that's going to go on in my garage, and it already is, because I spent the past couple of days getting the the shelves tore down and all of that stuff put away.
Now,
I can eventually start in build at some point later on.
Glued?
Say
Are
again.
the structures permanent on the layout, or are they removable? Will they be removed before you tuck it up in there, or how's that going to work?
I'm sorry, I mounted this thing and I killed my volume. What was your question, Dennis?
The structures, will they remain? Are they like permanent, or will they come off and on before you store it?
Nope, they'll stay on there. The only thing that I'm thinking that I'll do is I will cover any piece that I put into temporary storage with just a piece of the real light, cheap plastic you can throw down for painting that's worthless, but it's just as a dust cover. So yeah, everything is pretty much attached on the HO scale. So it's not going to come down. It's not going to be bounced that far. So I'm just going to leave everything on it.
Hey,
The only
Bill,
thing that'll come off, obviously, is the cars and the engines, but everything else, all the details, everything's just going to stay. Because when I lift it up, I'm not going to be tilting it or anything. I'll just get some help to kind of move it off of the base and put it onto the drywall lift. And the drywall lifts have wheels so that I can maneuver it, lift it up, and then maneuver the lift so that it goes up and over, and the layout will already be over the extensions that it's going to sit on. And then from there, maybe a poke with a stick, or I get, my ladder out just to give it that little shove to kind of get it back up against tight to the wall. And then I'm good. Then I've got a big space out here where I can do another one.
How much do you think that section weighs?
Knock the wall out.
Actually, it's not that heavy. I think a 4x8 sheet with the lumber, it's probably less than 100 pounds.
Right. Okay.
It's probably a lot less than 100 pounds, actually. It's more awkward than it is heavy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Bill, I'm glad you were telling us about this, because when my wife starts to question how crazy I am,
Just point
I'm
them
going
out.
to show her this. I'm going to show her this.
Yeah, look at
And I'm
this.
going to say, see, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, look at this guy. He's really nuts.
And again, it's I've got to be creative because I don't have any additional space.
Yeah.
I like what I'm building. I'm having fun with it, so I don't really want to get rid of anything. But I still, I like to build. So I don't know what I'm going to do once I get another one done. Then I'm going to be really in serious hurt, because then I'm going to have to, go into my office and do like maybe a Z scale or something, just to kind of keep going. It's like a drug. It's addictive.
You just need to knock a wall out, Bill. Extend your garage.
I got a question for
Wish
you.
I could. The wife has even offered to let me do that, but I can't because of housing code. This wall that I'm sitting right next to is as close to the property line as I can get.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I got a question for you. Once
Yeah.
you retire, do you think you would do this for a living, like for side money?
It would be kind of fun. I'm pretty sure that I will sell trees as a side.
Right.
And I want to go to shows. I need to get a different trailer and take the O scale to shows, and but I'll probably sell trees when I start doing that. So I'll hopefully the hobby can generate at least a little bit of income. Or when I retire, I'll work at Home Depot or Lowe's too, probably. But
Probably be easier to sell trees.
probably would be.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple minutes left. Let me look over here. I've been listening to you. I've been looking at chat. Anything interesting in chat, Steve?
No, not really. I mean, they've just been talking about Bill's. They're saying, Bill, you should go up. Just take your roof off and go up.
Bernard said, how big are you?
For the master bath, and part of the bedroom is above already.
Bernard says, how big are your trees out there? You can see a tree house layout.
Not that big. By
Would
the time
you-
they are that big, I'm pretty sure I won't be around to enjoy them.
Yeah.
Would your wife let you do a garden railroad?
She would, but I don't have any interest in doing anything outside. Quite honestly, it would be fun to build, but it would be too much maintenance to upkeep.
Yeah.
And just, I like my yard the way it is. I've done the gardening, the landscaping myself, and it's a lot of work. And with my back, I don't think I could do that much work like a garden layout anymore.
Well, Dale, Toy Man, he's doing one in 1/20th scale or
1/24th, 1/25th.
something like that. Yeah. And he used to have one on the ground. And he said, no, it's too much work getting up and down off the ground to do it. So he's built it up on level, so he didn't have to bend over to do anything. And if you haven't seen his, I'm sure most everybody here is probably on his channel too, but he's doing really nice work with that. But they had to put it up on a second level so they could do it.
Hey, look who popped in right at the last 60 seconds.
Well, What are you going to do with him? Going back to an earlier discussion, I think the latest was are free enough. That's
You're
true.
looking great.
Present.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell about it? What do you want your layout to be? You know, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And when I think people don't think about that when they first get into the hobby, because they've got a train set. So it's an oval or a figure eight or something with certain cars and stuff, and they don't really think about expanding past that a lot of times. So sometimes that can, Bill's thing showed up, so it must be time for the show to be
That's
over.
our alarm clock.
Yep. Actually, we're a minute past already.
Yeah, as it goes. But well, thanks guys for everybody showing up and guys in the panel.
Thanks for coming on, everybody. Have a good
Thanks for
evening.
being here.
Yep.
And hopefully next
Yeah.
week we will have a guest on. I'm going to work on that, getting a hold of a friend of Mark Pruitt's, and he's got a really nice layout. Looks like I haven't had a chance to really look at it yet, but a little bit I saw of it looks pretty good. So
Who is it?
I don't remember the guy's name even. It was like 1:30 last night when I saw the email. So
Okay.
or this morning. So I just barely saw it and remembered that he had that. So anyway.
And
Well, I'll get a hold of him, see if we can get him on.
happy Easter to everybody.
Yes,
Yep.
happy Easter, everybody.
Definitely.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, everybody.
Here, folks.